Hi, church family. I want to share a psalm with you that would encourage you during this funny season we all find ourselves in. And that is Psalm 46, especially verse 10 and 11. Verse 10 tells us, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge." This is such an encouragement because if you don't stop to consider it, it's not with you. It's true. It's true that God is God, whether or not you stop to recognize that fact. But what difference does it make in our lives if we stop to contemplate that God is there with us, that God is our refuge? Verse 1 says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." It goes on to say, verse 2, "Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling." I see a whole lot of tumult, upheaval, a whole lot of uncertainty and chaos. And yet God is reminding us in verse 10, be still. Contemplate this fact. Center your day and your thoughts around this reality. Be still and know that I am God. Literally, it means cease striving. This was written during the time of a war, as far as we know. I understand that the Assyrian army had surrounded Israel, that already decimated several of the Jewish cities, and now understandably the Jewish people were quite afraid. And Hezekiah was trying to console his people. What a difference during a war to be telling your people, be still. Be still and know that God is bigger than this. I'll be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. It's this an awareness that reframes your day. It recenters and reminds you of a foundation. And it doesn't happen by accident. It takes a great degree of intentionality. You might think that during COVID, this is a time when being still is an obvious thing. It's an easy way that should characterize our generation. Some people are out of work. A lot of people are working from home. People aren't fighting traffic. I see cars that don't leave driveways. The airport and international travel is like a ghost town. So you might think that these are days where stillness characterizes us, and yet it's not what we find. How about your day? Was it like that? This isn't going to happen by itself just because you're staying home. It's not saying be still for the sake of being still. It's saying be still and know. It's sort of a two-part phrase. Be still so that you can make space to know the fact of God being with you. How much that would change our day, and how much that would reorder our motives and our priorities from day to day. Being still. Consider that song that we sing sometimes. "And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace." I think about Job. Consider how Job was still when he found that God was actually sufficient. He did get answers to his questions, very good questions humanly to be asking in a position of his suffering. And yet, he learned stillness. It wasn't something God forced him to become still. He learned stillness when he was satisfied in God, just knowing that God was over him and God was strong. Joseph, despite the way he was treated, mistreated, imprisoned, sold as a slave by his brothers, he banked on this fact. God is bigger than all of this, and God will resolve this in His time. I will trust Him. Be still and know that God is above this, and that God has got this. When Peter focused on Jesus, he was able to walk on water. He became afraid and focused on the waves. He lost his focus on Jesus. That's when he needed the reminder. Be still and know that God is here with you. And he freaked out. He reached up, says, "Lord, save me." We need this reminder. We would do well to be reminded every day. Be still, cease striving, and know one thing, that God is on His throne and God is above all these things. I think of the Hebrews who, hemmed in by the Egyptian army and the Red Sea, it looked like the end for them. that looked like there was no way out. And Moses said to them, do you remember what he said to them? He said, "Be still and see the salvation of our God." It's a beautiful reminder. They were shaking their boots, and Moses says, it's not about you. There's a bigger picture going on here. Be still and let God do his work. What difference would that make if we were to cease our striving from day to day? There's another verse in the Psalm that says, "Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him." Some of these words sound like static, sitting words. Resting, waiting patiently, being still. But in the context, for Hezekiah and his men to be still at a time when they're surrounded by the Assyrians would have taken everything in them. So I challenge you to consider in your life, based on your circumstances, where you're at, what would it take for you to take a moment every day, maybe after this video, be still and consider, renormalize, recenter on the fact that God is God and he's above all of this. Consider that you are loved.